Michigan may be the Big Ten's only hope for getting 4 conference teams into the college football playoffs after Tuesday's latest rankings were released. I'll show you the math. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, hit that free subscribe button. That way you'll never miss a single episode because we're here every day. And if you could share, follow, and like, that'll help us out too. And did you know you can hype YouTube videos now? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. So Michigan is the Big Ten's big hope. I'll explain. Plus, we'll have more Big Ten news, some injury updates going into the weekend, and our players of the week, and then our own weekly power rankings and why that's important for the college football playoffs. We'll tell you all about that. So another round of the college football playoff rankings are out, and I am here to tell you that it is looking more and more unlikely. I said unlikely that the Big Ten gets 4 teams in that 12-team college football playoff field. 3 is the most likely number. 2 is a possibility. That would be disastrous. But there's one straight direct line path for a 4th Big Ten team to make the playoffs and have the Big Ten reassert itself, especially against those wannabe SEC types. I'll share that with you in a moment, how that would work. But let's start with the latest rankings that were released on Tuesday, and we'll go from there. Ohio State remains the #1 team in the country. They have UCLA, Rutgers, and Michigan left on their schedule. Indiana still #2. There was some talk that maybe Indiana and Texas A&M might flip. Nope, Indiana still good, 10-0, #2. Oregon moved up 1 to #8 after their win over Iowa. They've got Minnesota, a ranked USC team. That's the key to this whole conversation, by the way. And then they take on a formerly ranked Washington team. USC is at #17. They're up 2. By the way, if they win out, the college football playoff people say that they have an 88% chance of making the playoffs. It'd be a 2-loss team, Big Ten. But I am here to tell you that if USC does get in and they win out, that will be at the expense of Oregon, who they would beat if they win out. And Oregon's kind of hanging in there near the bottom of the playoff team. They would bounce out, even though there would be a 2-loss team. So USC's got Iowa, Oregon, and UCLA next. Then there's #18, Michigan. Did you notice that they moved up 3 spots in the poll and they didn't even play? Thought that was very interesting. By the way, those same people at ESPN, through their projections, say that if Michigan wins out, and that includes a win over #1 Ohio State at the end of the season, they'll get into the playoffs. I actually think their chances are higher. I would say it's a slam dunk. If they win out, if Michigan beats Northwestern at Wrigley Field and Maryland, look, those 2 wins are going to do much for them rating-wise. Maybe they creep up a spot or 2. Teams ahead of them lose. Get it? If Michigan's like around 15 and then they beat the #1 team in the country at the end of the season, they're in. And that's 4 teams. So I'll continue to do the math here in just a moment. I was glad to see that Iowa only fell 1 spot. They were 20th. Now they're 21st after their tough loss to Oregon in the rain. They still have USC this weekend, by the way, Michigan State and then Nebraska. And it's a shame. We did a podcast on this yesterday. You Iowa fans, go back and check it out for a second listen. I mean, look at Iowa's season. A 3-point loss to Iowa State, a 5-point loss to #2 Indiana, a 2-point loss to top 10 Oregon team. That's it. That's all. I mean, if they win one of those, we're talking about Iowa in the playoffs with Kirk Ferentz as well. Washington no longer ranked after they lost to Wisconsin. So Indiana and Ohio State are still in the playoffs, right? They're going to likely meet in the Big Ten championship game. So there's 2 teams from the Big Ten. Now, here's the deal. Again, with number 8 Oregon and number 17 USC, they play each other in a couple of weeks. I don't think they both get in. I think that's an elimination game. That definitely is an elimination game for USC if they lose, because that'll be USC's third loss. And if Oregon wins, they're squarely in the playoffs at that point. But if USC beats Oregon, I think USC gets in at 10-2, and that'll knock Oregon down a couple of spots just outside the playoff threshold. So I got Indiana and Ohio State, either USC or Oregon, not both. That's your third team. And then I got my Michigan scenario and why the Big Ten needs Michigan to win out, because Ohio State would still be in the playoffs even if they lost to Michigan. So that's the deal. That's how I see it. I would like your comments on that. And by the way, where Oregon or gets knocked out, or whether USC gets knocked in, remember, they got to be in like the top 9 or 10. It's not 12, even though it's a 12-team field, because don't forget, the ACC champions are not going to be ranked in the top 12. There was talk that the ACC champion might not even get in, like Miami as an at-large may end up getting in. Anyway, that's a spot that's quite possibly going to a team that's not ranked in the top 12. You got your group of 5, which right now would be USF, South Florida. They're nowhere near the top 12, so they would get one of those spots. So, and then Notre Dame, unless they get beat by Pitt. So really, you got to be in like the top 9 or 9 of the top 10, depending on where Notre Dame is, to get into the playoffs. It's not like, hey, let's make the top 12 and we're in. So it's a more narrow margin than you would think. So that's the scenario. Michigan right now, 18th. Again, they moved up 3 spots even on a bye week. I always think the committee kind of massages future scenarios. I think a little bit of that's going on now. And again, they're not going to move up a lot with the win against Northwestern or Maryland, but I imagine move up a spot or 2, and somebody ahead of them is going to lose. It happens every year. It's going to come down to that big game at the end of November against Ohio State at Michigan. If they win it, they get in the playoffs. That's 4 teams for the Big Ten. So we'll see. Now, if Michigan loses to Ohio State, then Ohio State's in the playoffs still, Indiana, and either Oregon or USC. That's 3 teams in the playoffs. So, and heaven forbid, like USC beat Oregon, knock them out. Then USC loses to UCLA in a rivalry game at the end of the year. Then the Big Ten gets 2 teams in. That's worst case scenario. It can happen. I don't think it will, but it can. For those of us that like to brag about the Big Ten, about getting 4 teams in and we're better than the SEC, that'd be a little embarrassing to only get 2 teams into the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen. Here's another thing, little interesting scenario. So the money payout for teams that make the playoff for the conference, the Big Ten gets $4 million for each team that makes the field. So you want 4 teams and not 3. It's an extra $4 million. Get to the quarterfinals, $4 million each. Get to the semifinals, conference gets $6 million each. And you get to the national championship at $6 million, additional $6 million. Plus, the conference gets an additional $3 million per team per round for expenses. So there's a lot of money at stake getting 4 teams in at 3. So when we come down to that November 29th game between Ohio State and Michigan, the Big Ten Conference may be in an awkward spot of having to root for Michigan to beat Ohio State in order to get the 4th team into the playoffs because of the additional millions of dollars that would be at stake. It's a little, look, I said the quiet part out loud right there is what I did. One more note. If the playoffs were to start today, the Big Ten would have 3 teams in. Number 1 seed would be Ohio State. They would get a bye, then they would play the winner of the Notre Dame-Oregon 9-8 game. 2 seed Indiana would get a bye and play the winner of the 10-7 game between Texas and Ole Miss. The 3 seed Texas A&M will play the 11-6 winner between Miami and Texas Tech, and then the 4 seed Alabama will play the 12-5 winner between South Florida and Georgia. If the playoffs started today based on this Tuesday's release of the rankings. Anyway, what do you think of my theories? I think I drew it out pretty well. I think we did the math. It's looking like 3. The best shot at 4 is Michigan to get hot. And I think it's USC and or Oregon. I don't think both, since they'll play each other in a much anticipated game against each other here in a couple of weeks. Hey, be sure to hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. And if you could share, follow, and like, that helps us out too. Don't forget, we have a podcast where we put all of our a website where we put all of our podcasts on each and every day. You can go back and listen to yesterday's podcast, for example. It's there at talkbig10.com. I have a link. Just click on your school logo, your favorite school logo, and there'll be tons of merchandise there for you. Shirts, pennants, hats with your school logo on it, just in time for the holidays. Check it out. Talkbig10.com. All right, I have injury updates at Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana. Penn State now losing recruits because things are so crazy over there. We'll have our players of the week for football and men's basketball, and then our weekly updated power rankings. We have a lot to do. You don't want to miss a single moment. It's coming up next here on Locked On Big Ten. Well, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, you get your crew moving, get them ready to go, and you do it with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. You need parts, you need them tomorrow, you need them ASAP. SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer to keep you moving. Plus, you could join their free Trade Master Perks program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHColleges5, number 5, for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Thanks for checking us out and making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially everydayers. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network out there. Meanwhile, hit that free subscribe button down below so you never miss a single episode, and share, follow, and like. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. All right, let's jump back in where we got some injury updates heading into the weekend here. Let's start with Michigan, since we were talking about them earlier. Running back Justice Haynes, he's still week to week with this foot injury. They're coming up to bye, and his short-term return is still unlikely. And as the Wolverines are getting ready to take on Northwestern at Wrigley Field. Jordan Marshall been doing a great job running in his place, not in his place. They were kind of like a 1-2 AB, if you will. He'll throw up 100 yards every week as well. But I mean, now you got to monitor his workload a little bit. So Jasper Parker, who's a freshman, and Bryson Kudzal will get some more carries, it looks like, for Michigan, kind of lighten the load a little bit. Ryan Day did not give much information on wide receiver Cardell Tate, who dressed but did not play at Purdue this past weekend. He reportedly tweaked something pregame, and they held him out. Also, offensive lineman Phillip Daniels and Joshua Padilla, they should have a full week here this week, and they were held out for the Purdue game as well. They host UCLA, 7:30 on NBC Eastern Time, 4:30 Pacific. But hey, Ohio State, you've been clamoring for a primetime game under the lights. You always get put in like big noon on Fox. You got your night game. Here you go. The Indiana injury report. Following their win at Penn State and before their game against Wisconsin this weekend, Kurt Cignetti said the wide receiver Elijah Surratt still day-to-day with a hamstring. He missed the Penn State game. And left guard Drew Evans still out. Going to be a several-week situation, but not a season ender. Zemakowski, who's been replacing him, got dinged up in practice. So that's where the Hoosiers are. Meanwhile, Penn State, with all the turmoil they have going on, can you believe we're in mid-November? They haven't won a Big Ten game yet. Almost did, but didn't this past weekend with the James Franklin firing and whatnot. Now kids who were recruited and looked like they were, going to go to Penn State, they're having second thoughts. And some guys are decommitting or opening up recruiting. Pierce Peterson, a 4-star from Minnesota, is reopening his recruiting. He's a hybrid. He's a linebacker and a tight end. He says he's committed to Penn State for now, but he's opening up his recruitment. So it's like, I'm staying with my girlfriend, but other girls call me. It's kind of what that is right now. He's the number 3 player in the state of Minnesota. Minnesota, by the way, was his runner-up choice before. The reason he chose Penn State was that he wants to play tight end. I told you he's a two-way player, tight end and linebacker. He wants to play tight end, and Minnesota's loaded with tight ends and tight end recruits, so he kind of shied away from them. See if that changes here in the near future. Middle of the week, we always like to highlight the players of the week around the Big Ten, and we'll squeeze in some basketball too here. But the offensive players of the week in the Big Ten, Emmett Johnson, no-brainer for Nebraska, and he accounted for 232 yards from scrimmage in Nebraska's win over UCLA at the Rose Bowl. That's a career high for him. So here's how it broke down. He rushed for 129 yards and a career high 103 receiving yards, and did that on just like 3 catches. 2 of them were touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns in the game. He was incredible. Also, the defensive player of the week, Cooper Catalano from Wisconsin, linebacker, freshman linebacker, 19 tackles, 11 of them solo, and a sack in Wisconsin's win over number 23 Washington. How about that for a performance? He became the first Big Ten player to have 19 tackles and a sack in a game since Blake Cashman from Minnesota in 2018, and the first Badger to do it since 1995 with those kind of numbers. Absolutely incredible. Also, the most tackles for a freshman nationally since 2022. Special teams player of the week, take a guess. How about Atticus Sappington, the kicker for Oregon? Made that game-winning 39-yard field goal with 3 seconds to go to give Oregon the 18-16 win over Iowa and a top 20 showdown there. 3 for 3 on field goals. Driving, cold, rain, didn't affect him. He was able to get it done. And then we have co-freshman of the week. This is nice because we keep an eye on these guys moving forward. First of all, good job by TJ Lateef of Nebraska, their quarterback. He stepped in, became the 5th true freshman to start at quarterback there at Nebraska since 1950, and got the win over UCLA in his hometown, by the way. And he's from Compton, California, from Southern California, and threw for 205 yards. Dylan Raiola, of course, broke his leg, and Lateef went in there and didn't miss a beat. Looked pretty good. Also, Mason Posa from Wisconsin, linebacker, another freshman. I mean, how about the freshman for Wisconsin? I mean, what a job they did here this week. Though their linebacker, Cooper Catalano, wasn't freshman of the week. He was defensive player of the week. And then we got another Wisconsin linebacker, a freshman, gets freshman of the week with 11 tackles, 2.5 sacks. He forced and recovered a fumble in their win over Washington, had a strip sack in the recovery there, and that set up the Badgers' game-tying touchdown in the third quarter. So phenomenal. He is the first freshman to have over 10 tackles and over 2 sacks and force and recover a fumble since 2014. So that's football. We always do that in the middle of the week. We got to start paying attention to basketball. I watched a lot of Big Ten basketball over the last week. So the co-players of the week, Tucker DeVries from Indiana. The transfer came in with his dad when his dad became the head coach, and he had 22.5 points and 8 rebounds. Well, that was his average on 2 games, shooting 57% from the field and 59% from the arc. Indiana's got some shooters now. He opened the season with an 18-point, 11-rebound, double-double win over Alabama A&M, and in that game surpassed 2,000 career points in the win. The guy can score. The co-player of the week of the Big Ten was also Bruce Thornton from Ohio State. Their guard, senior guard, averaged 32 points, 5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game, and shooting 78% from the floor, 7 of 12 from three-land, scored a career-high 38 points on 14 of 17 shooting, and 5 of 8 from the arc in a win over Purdue, Fort Wayne. And that's the most points scored for the Buckeyes since Jared Solinger had 40 in 2010. Remarkable. Freshman of the week, we go to Illinois. David Merkovich, their 6'9" forward, had averaged 18 points and 12.5 rebounds in a couple of wins for the Fighting Illini, 19 points and a career-high 14 rebounds and 4 assists in their win over Jackson State, and the first Illini freshman to record a double-double in his college debut since Coffee Cockburn did it recently, and also had a 17 points and game-high 11 rebounds in the win over Florida Gulf Coast University. So pretty good performances. We're off to a good start with the college basketball season. Got a few games tonight, Wednesday night in the Big Ten. Milwaukee is at 2-0 Indiana. That's at 7 p.m. on FS1 Eastern Time. Darren DeVries, one of the new coaches in the Big Ten, as is Nico Medved and Minnesota at 2-0, taking on 3-0 Missouri. That's an 8 p.m. Eastern game on SEC Plus. And then South Dakota State at 2-1, taking on 2-0 Oregon, 9:30 on Peacock. Of course, talking about these new coaches, Dana Altman has been there since 2010 at Oregon. So pretty good there with the basketball. Coming up, back to football. We power rank 1 through 18. I'm going to tell you why these are important regarding the college football playoffs. We'll take a look at those. That's coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. The NBA is back, and you could be back in the action too with FanDuel. There's no better place to get in the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game, you want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. You can even combine your live bets with same game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. And it just keeps every game more exciting. You'll be amazed how many more games you watch that you wouldn't watch before. You got a little something going on with FanDuel. My hot tip of the early season, take the overs on the Miami Heat. By the way, did you see their buzzer beater alley-oop dunk the other night? That was incredible. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up today and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. We always appreciate you each and every day, especially everydayers who join us. Thanks for making us the number one Locked On, the number one podcast, sports podcast out there. Let's take a look at our power rankings. We do this every Wednesday, and we'll just rank them. I'll put them on the screen here, 1 through 18. We'll start out at 1 through 10. If you're on audio, for example, on Spotify or Apple, no problem. We just list these with the logos, talk about them a little bit. At number 1, I've had Indiana at number 1 for about 3 weeks, just a hair above Ohio State. And I expected to hear more controversy in the comments over that from Ohio State fans. But no, I guess everybody's good with it. Indiana, they had a lead against Penn State. Then they blew the lead and couldn't put them away. Then they had to come from behind. Fernando Mendoza with his Heisman moment and the pass to Omar Cooper in the back of the end zone. So they're able to salvage it. Look, you're going to have an off day against a team that everybody thinks you're going to beat by a lot of touchdowns. And the secret is if you come out, you find a way to win. Championship teams find a way to win those tough games. That's exactly what Indiana did against Penn State. I have them at number 1. At a close number 2, I have Ohio State. By the way, they trailed 3-0 in the second quarter at Purdue and then scored on 4 straight drives. Julian Sayin did Julian Sayin things. By the way, everybody talking about Mendoza this week. Maybe a lot of people missed the Ohio State game at Purdue. Look, Julian Sayin is right there in the Heisman talk. Very exciting. Oregon, we've got them still at number 3. Again, finding a way to win. That's what they did at Iowa, and Iowa is not an easy team. And they win 18-16. So Oregon at the number 3 spot. I have moved USC up 1 to the number 4 spot. Here's why this is important. We just did a whole thing on this podcast. We're trying to get 4 teams into the college football playoffs, presumably the top 4 teams in the Big Ten. Who's going to grab that number 4 spot? And are they going to have enough momentum to get into the top, not the top 12, really, the top 9 or 10 to get into the playoffs? I explained why earlier today. But right now, USC, they have the road win at Nebraska and really took off in the second half against Northwestern, and they have a huge game against Iowa. Iowa's still ranked. They only fell 1 from 20 to 21, so this is a big quality game for USC coming up. Michigan, they move up 1. See, the college football rankings move Michigan up 3 coming off their bye. I'm moving them up 1 here in the Big Ten, and I said they've got the clearest path to the playoffs and give the Big Ten 4 teams in the playoffs. I didn't say it's the easiest path, but it is the clearest, straightest line path. Win out and against Northwestern, Maryland, and number 1 Ohio State, and I think Michigan will be in, but they're in my top 5 right now. Iowa just dropped them 2. I hated to even drop them 2 to number 6, but I had to make the case for USC and Michigan because I think they're still playoff eligible, if you will. I don't know that Iowa is with 3 losses, so I had to drop them. I hated to do it after that tough loss moving from number 4 to number 6. And again, 3 losses just by a few points with Iowa State, Indiana, and Oregon. I have Illinois at number 7. I move them up 1, just kind of because juggling other people around them. Like their 2 losses, Ohio State and Washington. They had that solid win over Rutgers. And now they're hosting Maryland, who's dropped 5 straight. I got Nebraska at number 8. I moved them up 1. They're bowl eligible. Look, I could have moved them up more. I thought after losing Dylan Raiola, I thought, wow, at least they're bowl eligible already. They got the wins that they need. Then they go out to UCLA, a team that's been playing fairly well for the most part, other than their hiccup at Indiana. And freshman TJ Lateef comes in and gets the job done and gets the win. Do you know how hard that is? That's impressive. Number 9, Northwestern. I moved them up 1. Look, they had that loss to USC, and I moved them up 1 just more so because we're juggling other people. They got Michigan at Wrigley Field. They need 1 more win to get bowl eligible. Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois. Got to get one of those somewhere. And Washington's rounding out our top 10. They're our biggest drop this week, dropping down 3 spots. And look, they had just cracked the top 25 in the rankings and had a bye after their Illinois win. And then they go and lose at Wisconsin, who we have had at the bottom of our rankings, but not anymore. Let's take a look at page 2 and see what we have here. Got Minnesota sitting at number 11. I moved them up 1 spot after they got crushed by Iowa. They had the overtime win against Michigan State, a bye week, and now they are at Oregon on Friday night. Yeah, we got Friday Night Lights tonight, Minnesota and Oregon. I got UCLA. I dropped them 1 to number 12. They had the bye after the Indiana loss, then losing to Nebraska, a team with the freshman quarterback at hand. So I had to drop them. Maybe could have dropped them another. Penn State sitting at number 13. I think that's where we had them last week, but they've lost 6 in a row. They looked good in the first half against Ohio State. They looked good for most of the Indiana game, but came up short. Rutgers, I've got at number 14. I moved them up 1. Basically, Rutgers, I moved up 1. Maryland, I moved down 1 because Rutgers just beat Maryland. Had to do it, right? That makes sense. Wisconsin had to get them out of the basement. I moved them up 2 from 18 to 16. They got a win against a ranked team against Washington. That's something. It's kind of an ugly game. What was it, 13-10? They got it done. So we're getting them out of the basement. Purdue sitting steady. No, I think I dropped Purdue 1 at number 17. And, they got beat by Ohio State. I can't really penalize them that much, but I had to move Wisconsin up. And I put Michigan State down at the bottom, dropped them 1. 0 for the Big Ten, coming off the bye. And boy, they got a angry Penn State team coming up here this weekend. That's going to be tough. All right, what do you think? Did we get it right? I think we usually get it right. I don't get a lot of complaints in the comment section regarding this. So I think we've got it nailed. We've tweaked it pretty well each and every week. We're here every day with multiple podcasts talking all things Big Ten, all 18 teams, news, analysis of that news, opinion. We never shy from our opinion, as you can tell from today, of course. We like your opinions in the comment section as well. But I know if you're checking us out, you're a Big Ten fan. And I know that you know other Big Ten people that probably don't know we're here every day. So if you get that little share arrow and send it, or tell your friends word of mouth, whatever, that we're here each and every day. Don't forget, you can reach out at Twitter at TalkBig10 or X, and also our website, talkbig10.com. We have all of our podcasts there and your favorite Big Ten school merchandise just in time for Christmas. Hit that subscribe button. It's free, always free. That way you'll never miss a single episode, and that would be great as well. Don't forget, Saturday, mark your calendars. We always go live on Saturday. I don't know if you know that or not. We will go live this week. We always pick a big game to go live. We're going to go live after the Iowa-USC game. So we're anticipating about 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. We're going to go live. You get my real, raw post-game reaction. I get yours too, real live-time comments, and we share them back and forth. I always enjoy that. In the meantime, college football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present the College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12 hosts that, along with 2-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and our Locked On experts. Put it all together and get you ready for each and every Big Ten game over the weekend. The college football kickoff, or all the college games, not just the Big Ten as well. Thursdays this season, only on Fire TV. That'll do it for us. We'll talk to you again tomorrow for Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. See you next time.